Yes, and that one that I got to anyone on Facebook, yes, of the YouTube thing. You know that. It's always nothing for something. You nothing for something. Always.
right. Welcome everyone to this memorial for Manfred Hirschmann as we celebrate his life this afternoon. Do I speak loud enough? Can you all understand me? Yes. Right? Okay. I would like to express first my deepest gratitude to Veronica and Lennon La Fortune for having offered us their magical place here for this event. And secondly, I also want to say thanks to each and every one of you, because with your presence today, you are already showing your tribute to the life of my husband, Manfred, and this life we will celebrate this afternoon. Let me also not forget everyone who is present on the live stream.
I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you and I love you.
I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you and I love you.
These are the special words God sent to us all. These are the magic words God gave to us all. Ho'oponopono, 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 I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you and I love you.
I'm sorry, gomenne.
許してね Please forgive me. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. 愛してるよ。魔法の言葉 and I love you. ごめんね、許してね、ありがとう、愛してるよ。
I'm sorry. ごめんね、許してね。Please forgive me.
I thank you. Please forgive me.
I love you.
愛してるよ。
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I thank you. Oh, I love you.
Thank you.
These are the special words God sent to us all. I love you. These are
I love you.
the magic words
I'm sorry.
God gave to us all.
Please forgive me.
I thank you.
I thank you.
Yes, I love you.
And I love you.
ごめんね。
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 許して。
許して。
I love you. I love you. I love you.
ありがとう。
愛してる。
ありがとう。
Had many colorful facets to be memorized. Manfred is an old Germanic name, and the meaning is man of peace, strong peace. He was known by Hirschi, Mani, Manfredo, and the Spessartian people always called him Man Friday. He was born in May 1954, a time after the Second World War, where Germany was under reconstruction from rubble and ashes. His father was in the worst war prison camp you can imagine in Siberia, where only 5% of people ever made it home. He was not welcomed back with his family, sent away, as he would have been one more mouth to feed. This family started from scratch, and Manfred inherited his strong will from his father, who built a strong and quite wealthy lifestyle through hard work. Giving up was never an option, no matter the challenge. Not recognized was his inherent potential, his passion, and his profound sense of justice he had already as a child and throughout his school life. He was head-on with authorities. When a situation was unjust or unnecessarily strict, he was often a challenge for teachers and even principal, and once he was even suspended from school entirely. He ended up in a boarding school in south of Germany, but it was not a punishment, because he spent his very best years there and made deep-rooted friendships. It is well known that his best friends shared one thing, and that is the name Peter. So much so that they all ended up with nicknames to discern who you are speaking to. I remember when Manfred and I moved in together in 1981, and he answered the phone, and I might ask, "Who just called?" The answer was Peter, almost always. And I counted in our phone book back then 32 times the name Peter. His father, a very successful businessman, wanted him to take over his successful business. Doubtless, he would have had the capability to do so. But his passion was elsewhere. It was in sports, particularly scuba diving and windsurfing, playing music, cooking, and all sorts of entertainment. Breadless art, his father used to call this. Manfred tried, therefore, for 2 years to work in his father's business, leaving every morning the house dressed up with suit and a tie. Can you imagine? Because we knew each other back then from sports teacher studies at university, it was always an odd scenario for me to see him leaving in a suit and a sky in the morning. After 2 years, he had enough. And he decided to give himself 2 years starting a diving school, a dive shop, rentals of diving equipment, and liveaboard trips to Italy with groups out of a garage, growing into the biggest diving school in Munich, called Tauchschule Lobster and Lobster Tours. After 1 year, the business was already full blooming all around scuba diving. And after the second year and the time to come, we had 26 scuba diving instructors working for us, including 2 employees in the tour operator, office, marketing and administration. We have been counted as one of the biggest diving schools in Germany by then. What Manfred always saw as confirmation that he was a good leader in business is that over all the years, none of our instructors have ever left us. We built a house for our family and business in 1983, and he amazed me, showing his organizing skills in construction, as well as his handcraft skills, in particular in electricity wiring and laying tiles, which he taught me too. The coming 13 years were our best years and the most successful times for Manfred. Liveaboard diving trips in groups to Italy expanded fast to Egypt, the Maldives, Philippines, and Australia. A next highlight was his idea to transform and renovate an old army truck into a fully equipped, self-sustainable, diving operational mobile truck with tents and a high-tech kitchen, solar energy panels on the roof, big tanks with water and fuel to run along the Red Sea desert coastline of Egypt. These extraordinary tours were fully booked, and who can say that he or she ever ate fresh Bavarian pretzels for breakfast in the most remote Egyptian area one could even think of, close to the Sudanese border. Even the military, which passed at times, were mind-boggled by what they saw. The same truck found his final place years later, 1997, in Achenza Estate in Tobago, in the north of Tobago, northeast to be exact, known for most as Belmont Estate. But before I go there, let me share some sweet, funny personal memories as his wife. One situation in which I can describe the interests and focus in our first years together was when we were lying in bed late, each of us with a book. My book was The Prophecies of Edgar Cayce about Atlantis. And guess what Manfred's book was to the contrary? How do I survive in the outback with a knife and a box of matches? That was us in a nutshell when our marriage started. Lying in bed up to 2 a.m. or longer, whenever I read about an astonishing information in my book, he was always utterly curious about what I just read, asking about, open and listening to my supernatural stuff going on from early years. Oftentimes, he then stayed quiet for a day or 2 or 3 before he asked questions and talked about it. For him, it must have felt like, how does a square fit into a round hole? I remember Manfred when he left for a trip for a week or 2. He left numerous slips of paper hidden in the house where I would find and collect them for the days and even hours and even days to come, with a Bavarian I love you note called Imokti. And when it was on me to go on a trip with a diving group, he did the same, hiding these notes in all of my luggage. Manfred was on the pulse of life, working 7 days a week in what we today would call an entrepreneur, and he enjoyed cooking and gatherings where he could live his life out of his potential as an entertainer likewise. He was a treasure trove of jokes, played the guitar and the harmonica until late in the night or mornings. Sometimes in his earlier years, the beers were many. Here two more things I remember. He never would drive by car when he knew there would be a beer or two too much in a what we call liming or party. Living in a city, he used the S-Bahn, which is a regional city train connecting the city center with the outskirts and the countryside. Needless to say, a good number of times when he went home with the S-Bahn, he would fall asleep and only woke up at the final station in the periphery of Munich. And on one occasion, on the way back, he would even miss to get off the train a second time and ended up at the opposite final station outside of the city. The most hilarious story was when a friend of his drove with him in the car after a party, both clearly beyond the tolerated level of alcohol. The driver lost control over the car, came off the street in the city center where the technical museum called Deutsche Museum is, and he drove straight into a huge ship propeller, maybe about 12 feet tall, in one and stopped there. In one quick moment of thought, they hopped to the back seat, and when the police arrived, both were lamenting that the guy who promised to bring them home safely took off and escaped. Smart move. Don't take this as an example. Life was easy back then. However, with marriage, building a home, the arrival of our first daughter, I can clearly say that he changed almost instantly. He started to take responsibility in life, and whilst he was still thriving to fulfill his dreams, he was mindful in his actions, cherishing his family as priority, which was one of his big changes in his life. Overall, I can say that he started with an exuberant lifestyle, gently turned into a responsible husband and father, reflecting differently to life and people. It never changed his essential dynamic, though. He was a man rich of ideas and innovations, a visionary and pioneer, who would stop at nothing once an idea caught fire. I would even recognize in between that he was ahead of his time to see what needs to be done, and he planned humanitarian projects based on the needs of people and on a bigger scale to restore even parts of our planet. In doing so, I also recognize that he was sometimes not easy for people to follow his words for two reasons. He could seamlessly and randomly jump from one topic to the next, and his plans were futuristic in nature, as he took all the potential of himself and all the potential and opportunities within and around him and turned it into something what would be needed in maybe 2 to 5 years down the line. To me, it was sometimes like he made 1 + 1 = 3, but only a few could follow him in this mental quantum leap. We were a pretty good business team back then, and he was full of sparkling ideas, the frontman in business, with wit in his expressions, entertainment and entrepreneurship, and I was implementing instant transformative action, start to organize and manage around it all, and I kept his back free. It was a time full of life and dynamic, and his passion for his actions and sharing good times with people was boundless. Too much to share in detail here, but overall, people got to know him always in fairness, integrity, straightforward conversations, never beating around the bush. He also paid his people a good salary in accordance with their responsible work and labor, which was the base of conducting good leadership. Many up to this day remembering him to be rough around the edges, but every beat of his heart was in the right place, expressed through sharing and caring in cooking, hosting, and celebrating life in any moment. I'm very touched by the reflections of people who have shared a memory with Manfred from all about, also from all the countries who are now on live stream, and which you will find in this book over there. Feel free to have a look into what his friends and acquaintances wrote and share in writing. The quote you will now see or hear or read in the program was of his selection over years. In his life, they turned into his affirmations, his prayers, his aim in life, walking the talk as best as he could. At our family Thanksgiving, he always chose meaningful proverbs written by native people, which also astonished me. 2 of them you find in the program. Also, with every picture and video we share with you, is how we remember him smiling, even when life situations were one you would not smile. He had no fear of life or the unknown. Nothing was too much challenging for him. He was caring not just for himself and his family, but he was always also concerned about the human race overall, no matter if locally, regionally, or on a global scale. And he never saw color in people. Therefore, let me say this. He only had a hard time when he would come across something or someone being unjust, deceitful, or of low-level corruption in any ways. He would never give in to be bribed. So all his accomplishments, even in permissions and paperwork, carry his honest effort of getting things done with full integrity and righteousness. Not everyone would therefore stand up for him and with him along the way. But I can proudly say that his business acquaintances in the last years were of his kind, with a great humanitarian touch and even new groundbreaking inventions in their projects, which gives his home calling at this time a bitter aftertaste. However, I believe that there is nothing to fear when your time of transition is coming, once you have lived a truthful and honest life, sharing and caring, involving others in your creative ideas. Try your best to never hurt anyone, admit when you were wrong or hurt anyone, correct your path, forgive others and yourself, and be passionate and kind in doing so. I also can imagine that he was received by the other side of the veil, and God knows, he probably might have already taken on another assignment. In retrospect, I would like to close with one of guiding principles we all knew out of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's book, The Little Prince. Only the heart can see well. The essence is hidden from the eyes. So please now celebrate his life with us this afternoon as I hand over to both of my daughters. Thank you.
Und außerdem hätte ich doch sowieso nichts Besseres vor. Ja, und lauter gute Sachen, das extra für mich macht, flüstert's mir ins Ohr. Sie hat da jede Menge gute alte Rockwohlschein und die legt's für mich auf. Die Halle stehen Vincent und ich sag, ja da steh ich drauf. Ja, und damit hat's mich gefangen, ich bin schließlich mit dir gegangen, mitten in der Nacht. Doch auf den Schlag war ich nüchtern und auf einmal schüchtern, doch sie hat nur gelacht. Sie hat ein Stereo, der hier gestern sind du vor. Von Katjanland zu den bis Meer, schwarze Lippen, grüne Haar. jeg angsten virkelig var. Ich will wieder ham, ich fühl mich da so allein. Ich brach grad så weit, ich will ham nach Flucht.
Die Schicksalsstoße, die dunklen und die heiteren Lose. Was immer auch die Menschen treiben, der Wechsel wird beständig bleiben. Im Leben geht es rauf und runter, das macht elastisch und hält munter. Wenn wir die Welt nur flüchtig sehen, dann lernen wir sie nicht verstehen. Sobald wir in die Tiefe steigen, wird sich ein anderes Weltbild zeigen. Der Unterschied der Perspektive gibt Reichtum uns und innere Tiefe. Der Mensch ist klein, der Himmel groß. Wer das erkennt, der lächelt bloß. Bleib stets bescheiden, auch im Glück. Bejammere nicht ein Missgeschick. Sei hoffnungsfroh zu jeder Stunde, dann bleibst du jung und auch gesund.
We are the storytellers that paint on a blank canvas to create the artwork that is our life.
I've been thinking about certain things, what I was doing in connection with the work. So, and I found out it was that what I was doing the last couple of weeks anyhow. It just confirmed it that in order to walk a new path, you have to be creative, and that is exactly what we are doing. The creativity is everything about life, about art, about business. It can be applied for every single thing in a person's life. The creativity has nothing to do with intelligence. People sometimes can be highly intelligent.
Me losing a loved one so close, and it's interesting. It's interesting how only after a person is gone or has left their human form does the true impact that they've had on your life become clear. When he passed, all the human layers and dramas fell away, and all that remains for me is who he truly was, his essence, all that he embodied, accomplished, and brought to this world. And he undoubtedly had an impact on so many lives all over the world. Whatever he put his focus and energy into was to improve it, to make it better for everyone. He was a humble man with a positive outlook on life, and he was very good-natured, genuine, and warm-hearted, authentic, caring, and always giving, helping, and wanting the best for his loved ones and the world as a whole. He wanted everyone to live in harmony with our environment and each other. He came here to Tobago wanting to improve and help the island and its people in the same way. It is for these reasons that his dreams and plans were always so grand. He was a dreamer, a pioneer, and a visionary. He always envisioned a better world and wanted to bring that into being. Reflecting on it now, he was truly a man before his time. His ideas were for the future, and sometimes it felt like the world wasn't ready for his big visions. A lot needed to happen before, and it is happening now. He set the stage, he built the foundation, and his visions now live on through us, his children and grandchild, and anyone else that was inspired by his ways, his light, and his grand ideas. My dad was one to break free from the mold, from a difficult past and a predetermined future. He went against the grain because he had a different idea of how life should be lived. He wanted a better life for himself and his family. To me, he was someone who answered the call of his heart, the call of the soul, and the call of nature and the sea. He knew, maybe not consciously, that he had to follow it no matter what, and no matter how vague or chaotic it seemed. Against all odds, he did what he had to do, always, and he did it his way. He always turned tragedy into comedy, and no matter how many obstacles he faced, or we faced as a family, we rose above them. Fear was just not part of his vocabulary, and I have great respect for him for all that. It takes great courage and strength to be different in this world and to break free from the normal or expected. I have so much to thank him for. Of course, he wasn't perfect and he had his faults, but who doesn't? And the defining thing about him was that he always chose the higher path and to rise above his imperfections, limitations, and challenges, whether they were physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual in nature, with the unyielding help, guidance, and support of my mom and his wife Sophia through and through. We are all dealt different cards in this life, and we all face difficult situations, but those things don't define us. It's always a matter of our perspective and how we respond to life's challenges, to keep choosing to rise above whatever it is and grow. He was a living, breathing example of that. Both my parents are. He was a jack of all trades, talented at so many things, most of which he taught himself. He was a truly passionate person, passionate about life and all that things he loved. And when he was passionate about something, he loved nothing more than to share this passion with the world. Singing, cooking, diving, nature, gardening, baking, talking, healthy eating, humanitarian projects, housing developments, organic farming. The list of passions is long. In a way, he helped us prepare for this memorial because all the songs and pictures and videos are what he made or left for us. He always loved music, whether it was to play music, to listen to it, or simply to go about his days whistling whole songs while he was doing whatever he was doing. He laughed, smiled, and joked a lot. He played music and sang around many campfires, gatherings, birthdays, and everything in between. It was through simply sharing his passions that he naturally created the atmosphere for fun, laughter, joy, celebration, and good times to flow. There was always good food, music, and his endless stories about how good life is and all the amazing and fun things he's experienced and lived through. He has lived a life of 10 lifetimes in one, I would say. It's like he said to himself, if I'm going to do this human thing, I'm going to milk it for what it's worth. Living life to the fullest was always his intention, and he sure did that. He had an obvious passion for the sea, above and below water. His passion for diving turned into one of the biggest dive schools in Germany at the time, and provided us as children with a life lived in two worlds, literally. The rich and flexible perspective of life that I've gained through diving is something I will always cherish and forms a huge part of who I am. Although he sometimes had an unpolished or rugged external appearance with some holes in his shirt or stains here and there, he was indeed a man of class with high standards who enjoyed fine whiskey and a cigar when the occasion arose, tasteful music, good food, and loved to be in the company of good people. I remember quite a few occasions where my mom reprimanded him about what he was wearing and if he doesn't want to change his shirt or pants before leaving to this business meeting, because this is what he wore yesterday. Or Dale carrying him to business meetings. And he would smell him to make sure he smelled presentable and didn't reek of garlic from every pore in his body, which was quite common because the man liked his raw garlic and onions every morning, and deodorant was just not something he considered necessary. And as time passed, he gained some valuable but also tragic personal experiences from which he had to learn to build himself back up from zero. His passion for life is what kept him going. He found a new passion for health and healthy eating and cooking, and he definitely made sure to share that one with the world, especially when it came to his healthy treats about exactly how little or no sugar is in his cake, or the no flour, no sugar, no dairy breadfruit cake. I'm gonna have to step up my game because he's been making Jasper's birthday cakes, so my turn now. He was always imparting some piece of wisdom or knowledge about something related to the kitchen, food preparation, how you do what, or what to eat and what to stay away from. At times it seemed a bit much or annoying that he would go to the supermarket with a magnifying glass and read every single ingredient of everything and eventually decide that about 80 to 90% of what's on the shelves is just shit food. That's not good for you. And he would start a conversation with anyone about what's in their shopping cart and what to avoid. He did lectures about food and healthy eating, but it was all so incredibly impactful on so many people's lives and so important. Many people have told me how much he influenced their lives through imparting this knowledge and has sparked an awareness in them that was used to change their eating habits, including myself. Our whole household changed. We couldn't bring home certain foods anymore because we would get a lecture every time. He would lecture doctors at the hospital about the shitty food they gave the patients and him, and how is he supposed to recover from this with this food. Now I'm so glad he never stopped giving those lectures. And the best takeaway and lesson for me from all this was that when he realized something wasn't working, he didn't just turn the other way and continue as normal because it was easier or more comfortable. No, he wrote a book, You Are What You Eat. He made all his own jams, chutneys, sauces, breads, hams, cakes, pastries, you name it, he made it. He made a cookbook with all his recipes, and he completely changed the way he ate and his lifestyle. And for me, that has been a valuable lesson in doing whatever it takes to reevaluate who you are and what you believe in if something just doesn't work for you anymore, rather than remaining in a comfort zone. He loved to cook and bake and to create amazing new things. We had pretzels and fresh bread almost every morning. Hirschmann breakfasts or brunches were legendary throughout the years. He loved to talk and share. He wanted to share his passion for healthy eating and living because it's what brought him back from rock bottom. Always a good conversation and ready to share interesting new things that he learned. He was knowledgeable about so many topics. And those who knew him would also know that he often shared without a filter of how much to share, when to share, the timing, or when to just stop and listen. Nonetheless, he always shared passionately because he cared. He found a way, and he found some information that made his life better, and he truly wanted to impart that knowledge on other people so they too could improve or have a chance to improve their lives. Sometimes, when people came over, I thought I needed to rescue them from his endless, unfiltered talking, only for them to tell me later that they loved talking to my dad and what an interesting man he was and what an interesting conversation and how much they learned. He loved to give, to entertain, and to bring a smile to people's faces. A person's smile is such a powerful thing that stays with you forever. He put a smile on and always tried to put his best foot forward, and he had plans to be here for a very long time. But unfortunately, he hasn't truly been able to be the man that he's wanted to be for quite some time now. Few people knew his struggles, and that he was trying to get his body to work properly since a series of accidents between 2009 and 2014. That's why it came as a shock to many, because he was always so focused on moving ahead and not lamenting anything. Since his accident in 2014, he's been trying to fix his body, to align his body with his strong, unyielding will to be here, to make things happen, to do projects locally and internationally, and to be here for his family and provide, to do good for the world and the environment, and ultimately influence and change the way we live in relation to the natural world. As he always said himself, his religion was nature. He worked with nature, not against it, and always loved gardening, growing food, and being outdoors. Then came his latest passion, Jasper. Jasper was truly the light of his life, as he said many times, my little sunshine, mein kleiner Sonnenschein. And I know he shared many pictures and stories with people of how excited he was about Jasper. He was incredible grandpa, opa to Jasper every day. And I feel very grateful that Jasper got to experience his grandpa for the first few years of his life. They baked bread and cakes together, did gardening and planting, and many more things that I know have already had such a positive impact on who Jasper is. He was always open to changing, trying harder, doing something different, adapting, and just overall focused on moving forward. A true optimist who genuinely just wanted to do better and be better. He had the power of conviction, a true believer. Where there's a will, there's a way was his motto, one of many. He cheated death many times before, so in a way, he was one of those people I could never really see leaving this plane, because he wanted to be here so badly. So many dreams and visions and ideas, so much drive to build and create. We kind of always joked about that with him, as if he knew death on a personal level and negotiated his way to stay here and be here several times. He could be very convincing after all. As a father, he was that dad. I remember thinking many times about how lucky I was to have him as my dad. As a child, I have memories where he was around all the other kids on the dive trips and tours, and he was just the funniest, coolest dad, and I was always happy that he was my dad. I remember wanting to be like him when I was younger. His life story and the stories he told might as well be a book series. He lived a full life, rich in experiences, friends, laughter, travel, family, trips, and always a good time. He always looked at the bright side of life. He didn't hold back and had a no-bullshit approach to situations, seeking truth and freedom and oneness with nature and our natural environment. He was unconventional and a nonconformist, and always very authentic and direct. I got a lot from him, not because he sat down and told me how to be, but just by who he was.
Everything he did was with an energy of just be yourself and don't settle for less. We knew we always had the freedom to choose to be who we want to be, knowing we had his full support. Like when I decided at 17 that I wanted to move to Spain, there were no objections, no concerns, just an excitement for all the things that I would experience and learn. He trusted us to make our own decisions, another quality that I appreciate very much. It is a big part of what made me into a confident woman that I am today. To know that I've been given the tools and that I am trusted to handle myself in any situation, and that even if things don't go well, there is always support and safety and the comfort of a home to come back to. As a father, he always gave us the freedom to be and exposed us to life in a very real and raw way through nature. It's like he knew nature would be our classroom for life's most important lessons. He knew we would grow and feel the same magic that he felt in nature, and that it would guide us and make us into strong individuals, providing us with a solid foundation for whatever life may bring. I remember when we were kids, he used to show us spiders with a childlike excitement so that we wouldn't develop a fear of spiders. He woke me up one night to show me a spider that he found in the house. His approach sure worked, as is reflected in the next generation, Jasper. I see so clearly now that many of the ways he raised me is how I raised Jasper, a love for nature and generally not being afraid of anything and facing everything head on, because no matter what it is in life, you have the strength to overcome it. That's all him. Which reminds me of a quote that always touched me very much, and as a principle I also raised Jasper by. Don't shield your children from pain, shield them from the belief that the obstacles they face in life will break them. And I know, whether knowingly or unknowingly, that he raised us like this. Even just by his example to always keep going and never give up, ever. He didn't need to teach us these things verbally, he just provided us with the environment to learn and set the example of some core principles and what it means to be a good human being. We were instilled with solid virtues as well as the flexibility to adjust our point of view and perspective as life requires, because the only constant in life is change, and that is something he also lived by. I truly have so much to thank him for. His determination and drive was inspiring to many. I often admired how a man in the middle of mainland Europe, Germany, decided to open a dive center with no ocean in sight, teach instructors, run dive tours and trips to Italy and Egypt and many other places, then find a little piece of paradise here in Tobago and pick up the family and relocate. We moved here and lived in the bush, as we called it. He chose the furthest tip of the island, deep in the rainforest and close to the sea. No running water, no electricity, only with a generator at times, and life was as simple as could be. We had animals, plants, we played in and with nature. Night and day we were in the bush, around the campfire, under the stars, in the sea, with the many animals, by the river, played and laughed and did whatever our heart desired. He turned a patch of rainforest into a home, without interfering much with the natural beauty of the place. I often look back at those times in Belmont, and I know it's what gave me a solid foundation in life, and an inner strength to face whatever life may bring. I feel incredibly fortunate to have grown up the way I did. And I give thanks to him for that, for making these bold, ballsy and risky choices that seemed chaotic and without reason. And there were many obstacles, and life wasn't always easy, but he or we always got through it all. I see now that his ways, his decisions, his choices, although they seemed chaotic at the time, had a structure and a plan and a divine order to them. There was sense to the madness or order to his chaos, and a guidance he seemed to be following, unbeknownst to him, that came from deep within and wasn't ruled by his strong intellect, but he was, in the simplest way I could put it, following his heart. There is a saying I knew from before that's been coming to me a lot since he passed. Life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards. The fact that we are having his memorial here at the horse park is very significant, because it's like things coming full circle. Growing up here with my dad was, let's get one dog, maybe two more, how about three? We can get a cat and some chickens, some ducks and goats. Let's get a horse, why not? So we grew up with Jennifer, a horse in the bush, and when it was time for change, I left the island to study, and new beginnings were on the horizon. Veronica came to the island at just the right time for him to offer her to have this horse. That was in 2007, with one horse, and now we're standing in this magical park 14 years and 12 horses later, paying tribute to him and his life, while my son and I have the opportunity to regularly be involved here and participate in the magic. Thank you. There could be an element of tragedy to his story, of course, depending on the perspective I choose to look at it from. He had so many plans that he wanted to see realized. Is the cup half empty or half full? There is a lot he didn't get to do, but there is so much that he did do, achieve and accomplish, and he just never stopped, and he wasn't ever going to. There was no retirement for him. There was no stopping. He was always going to keep going and make more plans and set more goals. So the way I see it is that death is not the end of the story. And as many have echoed, one of his greatest achievements was seeing us, his daughters, grow up and create our own lives, write our own stories. He lives on through us in the form of his recipes, his ideas, his ways, his music, his drive, his aspirations, and so much more. And he will be remembered when we harvest the fruits of the trees he planted or the recipes he left us. And when I teach Jasper to dive as he taught me, and many more ways. He did achieve everything he needed to in this life. There's only so much time, and he set the stage for whoever to continue. He passed on the torch, as we all do. So the most prominent feeling I have that remains in me is gratitude for everything. Thank you.
Und außerdem hätte ich doch sowieso nichts Besseres vor. Ja, und lauter gute Sachen, das extra für mich machen, flüstert's mir ins Ohr. Sie hat da jede Menge gute alte Rock'n'Roll-Schein und die legt's für mich auf. Die Halle stehen Vincent und ich sag, ja da steh ich drauf. Ja, und damit hat's mich gefangen, ich bin schließlich mit dir gegangen, mitten in der Nacht. Doch auf den Schlag war ich nüchtern und auf einmal schüchtern, doch sie hat nur gelacht. Sie hat ein Stereo, ja, hier gestern sind du froh. Von Gattenland zu Lennom ist mir schwarze Lippen, grüne Haar. Da kannst du ja Angst kriegen, wirklich wahr. Ich will wieder heim. Ich fühl mich da so allein. Ich brauch kein großer Weit. Ich will heim nach Flüchten. Perfekt. Da gibt es ja die österreichischen Liedermacher, die sind ja, gibt es ein paar ganz schwarze. Sagt euch der Name Ludwig?
What I'm gonna say is I'm very proud to have had a father like my dad. I think he was a real character, and I guess I wrote a story because I didn't know what to write. All right, here we go. Manfred was anything but a shy man, at least in the way in which he spoke. He was blunt and unfiltered, a man of integrity, someone who didn't care what people thought, as long as his morals were in check. He wanted life to be a certain way, not just for him, but for everyone. So he molded life for himself, much like the rocks he used to carry out of the ocean in Belmont, thinking that rock by rock he would lay down the foundation until eventually there would be a house. He treated everything that way. Hard work got you to your goals, and if you put in effort, you were surely able to get there. And so naturally, his mind was always full and blooming with life, with ideas and new ways to build a community of happy and healthy people who saw the true value of life when lived in tune with nature. He tried to share it through his music bar. That was the first time he had an encounter with death. Mind you, he had fleeting waves and distant hellos with death before, but he never actually sat at a table and had a with him. This time, however, he did. So in 2009, Death came to his bar, sat down, and ordered a polar beer and asked him what he lived for. Manfred hastily told him about his plans for Belmont, for his family, his garden, how he wanted to inspire people to eat better because it was so easily possible if they just listened. He went on to explain the worry he had leaving his family behind when there was so much unfinished business that he was responsible to make sure everyone was okay before he departed. Death saw the passion in his eyes. He saw the potential and also the benefits of such a man in the world. And without a word to explain who he was or what he had come for, Death got up, paid for his beer, and left. But it came with a price. And this time the price was Manfred's balance. Death decided to check in on Manfred numerous occasions over the years without making himself seen, just observing what he would do with the rest of his life. Death knew that his body had already begun to accept the coming decay, but his mind was as strong as ever. However, in 2014, he visited again. This time, Manfred was in the jungle, by a stream, lying on the floor enjoying the sun, when Death humbly sat down beside him. "Hello, old friend." Manfred looked at him with a smile. "Ah, you again. Unfortunately, I have no beer to offer you this time, as my bar has closed." "That's all right, old boy. Drinking is for young folk anyway," Death said. They laughed together and spoke a lot on life. Again, Death asked him, "What do you live for, Manfred?" This time, Manfred explained his new plans, still molded very much with the old ones, but evolved, different. His worry for his family, that he was so close to getting everyone safely to shore. He explained that life was like sailing on an open ocean without a... J is for Jasper, everyone. Sorry. He explained that life was like sailing on an open ocean without a compass, and he finally had land in sight. Death noted once again his eagerness, his everlasting passion, his playful, childlike approach to life. "If you stay," he said, "it will not be easy. It will hurt, and it will cost you more this time. It will cost you your mobility." Manfred looked at him for a while, contemplating his next word. "But I am still not finished here," he said contently. Death smiled at him once again. He got up, looked down at Manfred, and said, "It's always a pleasure to chat with you, old friend." And he turned and left him there. Over the years, as usual, Death observed still, ever wary. He had grown attached to this man's mission. He wanted him to succeed just as badly as Manfred wanted it for himself and for his family. In between, Death was called to his side again and again, but only to linger in the background, never to be seen, at least not until this year in 2021. This time, Death came to his house directly. "You know, I'm starting to think that you are Death. Every time I feel unwell, there you are, Manfred said to him. Death smiled sadly this time, for it was in this recognition that he knew it was time. Well, you know what I will ask, my friend. What is it that you live for? Death responded. Manfred once again told him of his projects, his plans, Argentina, the food industry, politics. He told him how proud he was of his family. That they had grown to be so self-sufficient. And lastly, that he had finally paid off his debt. That he had a plan to get back on track. Death looked at him. So you're not worried for your family anymore, Manfred? With a smile, Manfred shook his head. No. Death nodded and stepped forward to him. Well, then I suppose it's time I show you something. He reached out his hand and Manfred took it, recognizing it as the hand of a friend. In a flash, Manfred saw the future of all the people he cared for. He saw that they had taken pieces of his teachings and adapted it. You see, Manfred, they are okay. You have given them all that you can. So you want me to go with you, I suppose. Death nodded at him. Well, is there a garden where we're going? Death laughed. The biggest. Besides, I think it's time you had another beer with me to tell me about all your other adventures. And so Death and Manfred wandered off back into the jungle, and on the way, Manfred removed his shirt because it no longer constrained him, and put on his bush shorts, kicked off his shoes, and ran into the bush like the child that he always was, dispersing into a million particles that will carry the care he had for the land as whispers in the winds for those who need to hear them. Thank you.
Hello. So, forever etched in my memory will be that one day in September of 1997 when a loud-ass baby blue Land Rover pulled up to my primary school, and out came the two German girls who I somehow felt I already knew. Little did I consciously know in that 9-year-old moment was how much of an impact this family would end up making in my life. The Hirschmanns quickly became the source of balance I needed while growing up with a single mother who was also a newcomer to Tobago. They were open-minded, adventurous, and always welcoming to both me and my family. Countless sleepovers and magical weekends spent on their land in Speyside will always be some of the most nostalgic and treasured memories. I feel honored to have known Manfred to the extent that I did. What I appreciate most about him are the ways in which he made me feel like part of his family, often introducing me as his third daughter and always making sure to let me know he really meant it. He was as blunt as they come, and although there were a few topics we may not have seen eye to eye on, I valued the overall sense of comfort I felt to share my perspectives, differing or not. He had a generous heart, and that often translated in his small acts of thoughtfulness. How he'd pop his head into Susie's room every morning. We'd have a sleepover to say, "Morning, ladies," indicating that it was time to get up and have breakfast together. Not just any breakfast, a Hirschmann breakfast. If you know, you know. How he'd give me a strong pat on the back with a big smile on his face when I'd reluctantly have an emotional meltdown in his presence, and he'd tell me it would be okay, whatever it was. He was a curious and knowledgeable man of many talents and was all about sharing his knowledge, dreams, and visions of what a better world could look like. Manfred was also one of the most strong-willed human beings I've ever known, but despite that very apparent dominance of his undoubtedly strong mind, I somehow often recognized what was beyond that, the softer innocence of his inner child. As I learned with the passing of my mother in 2020, it's only until the soul has left the vessel that the ones remaining in this human reality can truly feel the essence of that person. A space is suddenly created that allows you to somehow fully and overwhelmingly grasp the beauty of their unique story and in many ways feel closer to and understand them more than ever before. I don't doubt that I will continue to understand who he came here to be as I watch the lives of his daughters and grandsons unfold and as I reflect upon his impact in my life as well. Thank you, Manfred.
Manfred has it to banker. Hey, you Manfred. Oh, Manfred. Ooh, is that his toe? Oh, mean.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light. It split the night and touched the sound of silence.
Happy birthday!
There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I'm one. My mother was a tailor. She sewed my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans.
Jo, freilich. Was ist das? Das ist mein Liederbuch, das kannst du nicht essen.
The world is closing in. Did you ever think that we could be so close, like brothers? The future's in the air,
was ist das?
Das ist der Cars, oder? Cars. Guck mal, Cars.
Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. Three little birds, it's by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, "This is my message to you." Singing, "Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright." Saying, "Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright."
Here I fill my... No! You take a seat.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. What is a man? What has he got, if not himself? Then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my Yes, it was my way.
If anyone would like to stand up and say something, you're welcome to do that now. If not, we'll read a few memories and then move on.
For Manfred. For Manfred, you are enough. On earth, you were a special star, an open flower, open-minded, open-hearted, always speaking your truth. That's why we honored you, because you always said what you thought. You're radiating with unusual strength, a beauty which goes beyond words, of the heart
and power to make things happen. In this life, you achieved so much. For me, a role model for the youth and community, always very dedicated and disciplined, sharing pure love, sharing your pure, loving fragrance with all. Very straightforward. For me, especially seeing it through animals and plants, sometimes humans, it's hard to speak to. But you know, at the end, I think especially now as you're gone, something will remain with them. All are deserving the best, the pure gifts. What nature offers, pure love, is the message you brought, the lesson you taught, the reflection you thought. To love and be loved is why we are here. You had no fear to making this clear. Just like the smile that once blessed your face, where you are now is a beautiful place. There you are, light, in limitless freedom, your soul expanding without limitation, immersed in the embrace of your unconditional love. Your true self is at home in the beauty above. As above, so below. May we who remain embrace what you show, that love is love, love is life, love is never ending. Love is who we truly are. My friend Elspeth helped me to write that. Thank you.
As we come close to the end, I have mentioned this book. There are many memories of people who shared them with us ahead of time. I only read one before we do our final special video for you. Feel free to afterwards go and have a look, and if you want to share a memory, a note, a sentence or anything, we really appreciate it. So this one is from Yannick. There is no short way to express how moved I am by the passing on of one of the most enduring men I ever have worked with, definitely made of steel, balls of the size of watermelons. He was quick with the numbers and waged war against eating shit. Sorry, my French. This is not good, Yannick. This is shite, Yannick. I have built my business around a lot of his ideas and contributions in doing so in my life and my children's life. I have come to love the best part of Manfred. In saying so, I mean his family. I love and respect them all as my own, and I hope to continue to learn and love with them as we do so fearlessly and without apology. The works of Manfred must be completed, published and protected. It will save lives. Okay. And maybe one final one from our housekeepers in Germany. When we reflect on Manfred, he always leaves a smile on our face. For us, Manfred is best boss, best diving instructor, best landlord, best cook, best entertainer, best friend, and nothing can ever change that from Uschi and Peter aus Munich. So, thank you.
pleasant good day to everybody. My name is Dale Grant. I'm Manfred, best friend, buddy, brother, everything you can call. I is a member of the Hirschmann family. I know Manfred for over 20-something years. And he was a very good person to me, a good friend. He's a father. Everything you can imagine was Manfred. He was a bit crazy though. And it really hurts me to know that he's gone. It was about 4-something he called me before he passed away. He wanted to see me before I go, but you know how things just be. But I was there. Most important thing, I was there. I don't want to cry or break down like everybody else, right? Because I lost my father too, and I know what it is to lose someone, right? And I would just like to let all you know that live in love, live in harmony, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And Manfred is a person, he will tell you, you see a pothole, he will look for it and drop down in it. And he will go crazy over many things. Like sea, he loves cooking, he loves people, the most of things. And he loves to eat healthy. And he gave me the motivation of being a better person, because I myself have been through a lot of things. And he said to me, don't matter how good you are, you can always be replaced. He always said that to me. No matter how good you are, you can always be replaced. And that touched my heart, right? And it still touches my heart. And that is to tell everybody, no matter how good you is to someone, you can always be replaced. So love yourself and live a simple life and be happy. And I am honored to be here. And I don't want to cry or anything, but Manfred is dead for the first time, and he's going to born again. That's how I look at it, right? And may God bless every one of us here, and thanks for everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I am sailing home again, across the sea. I am sailing stormy waters to be near you, to be free. I am flying, I am
I couldn't make it up. I'm still going through my whole order. Yeah, what the hospital job is, but it's
I did this?
Yeah, yeah.